I first saw her on the beach. It was late at night, and the moonlight stretched across the sand and dark waves like a silver veil. I had been walking along the shore, listening to the quiet rustling of the water, when I noticed her figure standing at the very edge of the surf. She stood barefoot, her long black hair cascading over her slender shoulders. A white dress clung to her wet body, translucent under the pale moonlight. The waves lapped at her feet, but she didn't move, as if listening to something beneath the surface. I froze, watching her. There was something unsettling about how still she was, as though she belonged to this night, blending into the moonlight and the whispers of the sea. I took a step toward her. "Are you okay?" I asked. She flinched and slowly turned toward me. Her eyes were large and dark, reflecting the light of the moon. For a moment, I thought I saw fear in them, but then her lips curled into a soft smile. "You came for me?" Her voice was quiet, almost drowned out by the sound of the waves. I hesitated. "I was worried about you." She tilted her head slightly, her dark hair sliding over her shoulder. "You shouldn't be." I stepped closer, feeling the chill of the ocean breeze against my face. "You shouldn't be out here alone." Her smile deepened, but her eyes remained wary. "I'm not alone." I frowned. "Who's here with you?" She looked toward the sea. The waves rolled in gently, leaving a thin layer of foam on the sand. They? She took a step forward. The water reached her knees now. "The ones who've been waiting for me." My chest tightened. I reached for her hand and grabbed her wrist. Her skin was ice cold. "Wait, who are you talking about?" She turned toward me. That strange glint flickered in her eyes again. "They've always called me," she whispered. "And now they've noticed you too." A dark shape stirred beneath the surface. Long and sinuous, it slid just beneath the waves. "Come back." I pulled on her arm, but Lila didn't move. Her gaze remained fixed on the water. "You shouldn't have come," she said softly. A wave crashed against my legs, and the cold shot through my bones. I saw something dark rise beneath the surface. "Lila!" A black tendril shot out of the water and coiled around her ankle. "No!" I lunged forward and grabbed her shoulders. She screamed as the thing beneath the waves began to drag her down. "Hold on!" Another dark tendril curled upward, reaching toward us. I pulled her hard, feeling the strain in my arms as the cold of the water seeped into my skin. The shadow tugged harder, pulling her toward the sea. I dug my heels into the wet sand and pulled with all my strength. Leela's arms wrapped around my neck, and I yanked her out of the water, just as the dark shapes began to rise higher. We collapsed onto the sand. Leela's trembling body pressed against mine. Her wet hair stuck to her face, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "What was that?" I whispered. She pressed her face against my chest. Her skin was cold, her body shaking. "I told you," she whispered. "They've come for me." "But why?" She raised her head slowly. A single drop of water ran down her cheek. "Because I belong to them." I brushed her wet hair away from her face. "No," I whispered. "You belong to yourself." Her eyes shimmered. If only it were that simple. I tightened my arms around her. "I'm not letting them take you." A dark shape stirred beneath the water again. The cold breath of the sea filled the air. "They won't stop," Leela said. "Then I'll stop them." Her eyes widened. "You don't understand. They're part of me." I touched her cheek, my thumb tracing the line of her jaw. "Then I'll fight for you." Fear and hope flickered in her gaze. "If you stay," she whispered, "they'll come for you too." "Let them." She watched me for a long moment. For a moment, everything was quiet. The waves, the wind, the world itself. Then the sea began to stir again. Beneath the surface, something dark and long and hungry began to move. Lila's fingers tightened around my hand. "Are you ready?" I nodded. "Show me." A sad smile touched her lips. "Hold on to me." And we stepped into the dark waters together. The cold hit me like a wall as we stepped into the water. My breath hitched and my muscles stiffened, but Lila's hand in mine kept me anchored. Her fingers were cold and trembling, but her grip was firm. The water swallowed our legs as we waded in deeper. The moonlight shimmered on the surface, casting broken silver lines that danced and twisted with the dark shapes beneath. The shadows moved unnaturally, long, sinuous forms that slithered and curled around our legs without ever fully surfacing. "Lila," I whispered, "what's happening?" She didn't answer. Her dark eyes were fixed on the water ahead. Her hair clung to her face in wet strands, her white dress trailing behind her in the current like ghostly tendrils. A wave rolled in, nearly knocking me off balance. I tightened my grip on her hand. "Leela!" "They're calling me," she said softly. Her voice was strange, distant, almost hollow. A shiver ran down my spine. "Then ignore them." "I can't." She turned to me, her eyes shimmering with something dark and ancient. "I'm bound to them." "No," I said through gritted teeth. "You're not." A cold wind swept across the surface of the water, and I heard it. A low, guttural whisper rising from beneath the waves. It wasn't the sound of the ocean. It was something else. "Come back. Come home." Leela flinched. The water darkened around us. "They're angry," she whispered. "Good." I pulled her toward me, trying to lead her back to shore. But her body resisted. Her gaze remained fixed on the dark shapes beneath the water. "Leela, come on!" Her hand slipped in mine as something cold and slick brushed against my leg. I tensed, my breath catching in my throat. "Leela!" Her eyes widened. A dark shape rose beneath the water, long and coiled like a serpent, with tendrils stretching toward us. A hollow sound vibrated through the water, like the slow creaking of wood under pressure. "They're here," Leela said. Her eyes darkened. A tendril shot out of the water. I pulled her hard, and we stumbled backward into the surf. The thing lashed out, narrowly missing her ankle. A second tendril shot toward me, curling around my leg. No! I felt the pressure tighten as it began to drag me under. Salt water surged into my mouth, burning my throat as I fought to stab. "Lila!" She lunged toward me, her hands gripping my arms. Let him go! She screamed. The pressure around my leg increased. My head slipped beneath the surface. I saw shadows twisting beneath the water, dark shapes writhing and moving unnaturally. Come back! Give her to us! Through the churning water, I saw Lila's face. Her lips moved, and for a moment, I couldn't hear her. Then she screamed my name. Her hand closed around my wrist, and a pulse of energy shot through the water. The tendril around my leg shuddered and loosened. I gasped as my head broke the surface. Lila's eyes were wide, glowing faintly with silver light. You can't have him. She screamed into the dark. A deep rumble shook the water. The shadows beneath the surface began to rise, dark figures forming out of the depths. Their shapes were wrong, twisted, skeletal outlines with hollow, staring eyes. You promised, one of the voices said. You belong to us. Leela's hands trembled against my skin. I never promised anything. You were ours from the beginning, the voice whispered. You cannot run from what you are. Leela shook her head violently. I'm not yours. The dark shapes began to rise higher. A black hand with long, bony fingers curled upward, reaching toward her. Leela. Her eyes flashed with silver light. She turned to me, her expression both terrified and resolute. I can stop them. How? She bit her lip. Her hand on my arm tightened. I have to go with them. No. I grabbed her face, forcing her to meet my gaze. We can fight them together. Her eyes filled with tears. You don't understand. Then make me understand. A dark tendril shot toward her waist. I lunged between them and tore it away from her. The shadow screamed. Leela's hand pressed against my chest. They're part of me. I don't care, I yelled. You're not going with them. You'll drown if you stay. Then I'll drown with you. Her eyes widened. A tear slid down her cheek. You'd do that? For you? I cupped her face. Always. Her lip trembled. Then her mouth pressed to mine. The kiss was desperate and deep, her cold hands clutching the back of my neck. The sea roared around us, and the dark shapes surged toward us. Silver light exploded around us. Lila's skin began to glow, her dark hair rising around her like it was weightless. Her hands pressed to my chest, and the light pulsed through me, burning away the shadows. The dark tendrils screamed as the light touched them. They dissolved into mist. A dark figure rose from the depths, tall and skeletal, with hollow eyes. Its mouth opened in a silent scream. Lila's hand slipped from mine as the figure lunged toward her. No, she turned toward it. Her hands glowed. You can't have me anymore. A pulse of silver light shot from her hands. The figure screamed, twisting violently as the light burned through it. It shattered. The remaining shadows recoiled and sank beneath the waves. The water stilled. Leela collapsed against me, her body trembling. I caught her, holding her close. It's over, I whispered. Her breath was shallow against my chest. For now, she said weakly. I stroked her wet hair, kissing the top of her head. They'll come back. Then we'll fight them together. Her eyes fluttered shut. You should have left me, she murmured. never. Her lips curled into a faint smile. Then you're mine now. Her hand slid into mine. And I'm yours. We stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, as the sea whispered around us. The air in Pattaya was thick with heat and the scent of salt, even at night. I'd come to Thailand seeking escape, cheap beer, neon lights, and the chaos of walking street had been my plan. But that night, restless and tired of the crowds, I wandered to Jomtien Beach instead. The moon hung low, a silver crescent slicing through the black sky, casting a faint glow over the waves. The beach was deserted, save for the distant hum of motorbikes and the rhythmic crash of water against the shore. I kicked off my sandals, letting the cool sand slip between my toes, and sat near the water's edge, a bottle of Chang beer in hand. That's when I saw her. She emerged from the shadows like a wisp of smoke, barefoot, her long dark hair swaying in the breeze. Her dress was simple, white cotton, tattered at the hem. But it clung to her frame in a way that made her seem ethereal, almost otherworldly. She didn't walk so much as glide, her steps silent against the sand. I blinked, wondering if the heat and alcohol were playing tricks on me. But then she stopped, a few feet away, her head tilted, watching me with eyes that gleamed like polished obsidian. "You're not from here," she said, her voice soft but carrying an odd lilt, as if English wasn't her first language, or her 100th. "Neither are you," I replied, more out of instinct than thought. Something about her felt off, like she didn't belong to the tourist traps or the neon glow of Pattaya. She smiled, a small, secretive curve of her lips, and sat beside me without asking. Up close, she smelled faintly of jasmine and something earthier, like damp soil after rain. Her name, she told me, was Noi. No last name, just Noi. She didn't ask mine, and I didn't offer it. We talked, or rather, I talked, and she listened. I told her about my life back home, the job I hated, the breakup that had driven me halfway across the world. She nodded, her gaze drifting to the sea, as if she were hearing something in the waves I couldn't. When I asked about her, she said only, "I come from a village up north, far from here. My family is different." "Different how?" I pressed. Her smile faded, and she stood abruptly. "Come with me," she said, extending a hand. "I'll show you." I should have said no. Every rational part of me screamed to stay put, finish my beer, and head back to my hotel. But her eyes held a pull I couldn't resist, like a tide dragging me under. I took her hand, and it was cool against my skin, almost too cool for the humid night. She led me away from the beach, through narrow alleys I hadn't noticed before. The sounds of Pattaya faded, replaced by the chirping of crickets and the rustle of unseen leaves. We walked for what felt like hours, though my watch claimed only 30 minutes had passed. The city lights vanished, and the air grew heavy with the scent of jungle. I stumbled over roots and stones, but Noi moved effortlessly, her white dress a beacon in the dark. Finally, we reached a dirt path winding up a hill. At its crest stood a cluster of wooden houses, their roofs thatched with palm leaves, illuminated by flickering lanterns. A village, impossibly close to Pattaya, yet feeling centuries removed. Shadows moved between the houses, and I heard low voices, a language I didn't recognize, guttural and ancient. "My family," Noi whispered, her grip tightening on my hand. Before I could respond, a figure emerged from the nearest house. A woman, older, her face etched with lines like a map of forgotten roads. Her hair was gray, tied back with a strip of cloth, and her eyes were the same piercing black as Noi's. She wore a necklace of bones, small, polished, and unmistakably animal. She stared at me, unblinking, and muttered something to Noi in that strange tongue. "She's my mother," Noi said, though the woman hadn't introduced herself. "She says you're welcome here, for now." "For now?" I echoed, unease creeping up my spine. Noi didn't answer. Instead, she pulled me toward the house. Inside, the air was thick with incense, the walls lined with shelves of jars, some filled with herbs, others with things I couldn't identify. Dark liquids, coiled shapes, fragments of bone. A wooden table sat in the center, stained with what looked like old blood. My stomach churned, but Noi's calm demeanor kept me rooted. More figures appeared, men and women, all with those same dark eyes, their movements slow and deliberate. They watched me silently, their expressions unreadable. One, a man with a scar across his cheek, carried a bamboo basket filled with fish, their scales glinting wetly in the lantern light. He set it down and began gutting them with a curved knife, his hands steady and practiced. "Stay for the meal," Noi said, her voice a quiet command. I wanted to leave, to run back to the safety of Pattaya's chaos, but my legs wouldn't move. The family worked around me, preparing food, fish roasted over an open fire, rice steamed in banana leaves, a broth that smelled of lemongrass and something metallic. They ate with their hands, tearing into the fish like it was a ritual, their eyes never leaving me. Noi sat beside me, pressing a piece of fish into my palm. "Eat," she urged. "It's polite." I took a bite, the flavor sharp and strange, lingering on my tongue. The family murmured among themselves, nodding as if I'd passed some test. Noi's mother approached, placing a clay cup before me. The liquid inside was dark, almost black, with a faint shimmer. "Drink," Noi said. "It's tradition." "What is it?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Something old," she replied cryptically. "From the land. From our history." I frowned, curiosity battling my fear. "Your history?" Noi's mother leaned closer, her voice a low rasp as she spoke in broken English for the first time. "Our village, older than cities, older than kings. Before Siam, before temples, we were here." She tapped the floor with a bony finger, as if pointing to something beneath the earth. "We came from the shadows of the forest, when the land was wild and the spirits ruled. Our blood is tied to them." Noi nodded, her eyes glinting. "Long ago, our ancestors made a pact. The forest was dying. Floods, fires, beasts that hunted us. They begged the spirits for protection, for power. The spirits answered, but they demanded a price. We became their keepers, their hands in this world. We live apart, hidden, because the pact cannot break. What kind of pact? I asked, my throat dry. Noi's mother smiled, revealing teeth worn to jagged points. Life for life, blood for blood. The spirits gave us strength, long years, secrets of the earth. In return, we feed them. We guard their places, old trees, hidden caves, waters that run black. Outsiders don't understand. They build, they take, they forget. But we remember. The scarred man spoke then, his voice deep and gravelly. The village moves. It's never where they look. The spirits guide us through jungles, over hills. Pattaya grows, but it cannot touch us. We are the shadow it doesn't see. I stared at the jars on the shelves, the bones in the necklace, the stains on the table. Feed them how? I whispered, though I dreaded the answer. Noi's hand rested on my arm, her touch cold. Not all who come here leave. Some stay. Some help us keep the pact. My heart pounded as the room seemed to close in. The chanting began then, low, rhythmic, rising from the family like a tide. Noi's mother lifted a small wooden box from a shelf, its surface carved with spiraling patterns. She opened it, revealing a pile of ash mixed with tiny gleaming shards. Teeth, I realized with a jolt. Human teeth. This is our history, she said, dipping her fingers into the ash and smearing it across her forehead. The ones who stayed, the ones who fed the land. I tried to stand, but my legs felt heavy, pinned by an unseen weight. The drink, I thought, panic rising. What was in the drink? Noi pressed the cup to my lips again, her grip firm. Finish it, she said. You're part of this now. I drank the liquid burning, my vision blurring as the chanting grew louder. The room twisted, shadows stretching into shapes, tall, thin figures with too many limbs, eyes like voids. The family's faces warped, their smiles too wide, their teeth too sharp. Noi's voice echoed in my skull. The spirits see you. They know you. When I woke, I was back on Jomtane Beach, sprawled in the sand, the sun rising over the horizon. My head throbbed, my mouth dry, the taste of that drink still clinging to my tongue. My sandals were gone, my pockets empty, but worse was the mark on my arm. A faint, spiraling pattern, etched into my skin like a tattoo I didn't remember getting, matching the carvings on that box. I stumbled back to my hotel, replaying the night. Had it been real? A dream? I searched maps for a village near Pattaya, matching what I'd seen. Nothing. I asked locals about a girl named Noi, a family with bone necklaces and ancient pacts. They laughed, shook their heads, told me I'd had too much to drink. But the mark remained, growing darker each day. And sometimes, at night, I hear her voice in the wind, soft, lilting, calling me back. I see those spiraling patterns in my dreams. Feel the weight of unseen eyes. I don't know what they did to me, or what they want. But I know one thing. I'll never return to that beach. Not alone, not ever.